This influencer thought she could trend by mocking a poor janitor, but she's about to viral for the wrong reasons. She had no idea the man she humiliated actually funded the entire laboratory she uses for her content. Now she's facing the board of directors, and her fate is in his hands. The pink liquid hit the laboratory floor 2 seconds before Sloane Mercer turned her phone toward the janitor. She had been live streaming herself mixing a sponsored skin serum inside Halston University's Advanced Biomedical Innovation Center, smiling beneath a ring light while more than 80,000 viewers watched. When the glass vial slipped from her hand, the liquid splashed across the polished floor and spotted the toes of her white designer boots. Instead of reaching for the emergency spill kit mounted beside her, Sloane pointed at the gray-haired man pushing a mop cart through the doorway. Seriously. She snapped, "Look what you made me do." Elias Grant stopped at the threshold. His dark blue facilities uniform was clean except for a faded bleach mark near one pocket. A silver key ring hung from his belt, and a dented green thermos rested on the top shelf of his cart. "I didn't touch you, ma'am," he said calmly. "Please step away from the spill. I need to know what was in that vial." Sloane swung the camera closer to his face. "Guys, this is what I deal with when I try to create educational content," she told her audience. "People wandering into restricted areas and pretending they know how a laboratory works." Elias looked past the phone toward the open containers on the workbench. 2 bottles had been removed from a locked chemical cabinet. A red insulated cooler sat beneath the counter, partly hidden behind Sloane's equipment bag. "This room is restricted after 8, he said. "And your ring light is plugged into an emergency circuit. Shut it off, please." The comments racing across Sloane's screen encouraged her. "Ask him where he got his chemistry degree. Make him clean it on camera. Why is a janitor giving orders?" Sloane smiled as the viewer count climbed. "You heard him," she said. "Apparently the mop comes with a PhD." A young woman in a lab coat stood near the centrifuge, watching with growing discomfort. Maya Chen was a doctoral researcher assigned to supervise Sloane's university-sponsored content sessions. She took one step forward. "Sloane, we should end the live stream. That solution may contain an irritant." Sloane ignored her. She lowered the phone until Elias' work shoes filled the frame. "Go ahead," she said. "Do your job." Elias did not move. "Your viewers need to leave this room with you," he said. "This isn't a studio." Sloane's smile hardened. Her engagement had been falling for 3 months, and a major cosmetics company was deciding whether to renew a contract worth more than her father earned in a year. She had promised her manager something spontaneous, something confrontational, something that would remind the internet why millions of people followed her. A quiet janitor refusing an order was exactly the kind of target she needed. She picked up a handful of paper towels and dropped them at his feet. "I'm not asking you to solve cancer," she said. "I'm asking you to clean a floor." Maya's face tightened. Elias looked down at the towels, then back at Sloane. "You spilled an unidentified compound in a controlled laboratory," he said. "That requires an incident report, protective equipment, and a supervisor. You're asking me to hide it because you're filming." For the first time, Sloane's expression flickered. Then she laughed. "Did the university start giving management training to the cleaning crew?" She turned the phone toward herself, widening her eyes for the audience. "This man is literally refusing to clean because he wants to lecture a woman about science." "That is not what happened," Maya said. Sloane quickly angled the camera away from her. Elias reached for the spill kit. As he did, Sloane stepped backward and kicked his cart. The dented thermos struck the floor, its cap breaking loose. Black coffee spread beneath the cart, mixing with the fluorescent pink solution. A small photograph slid from under the thermos strap. It showed Elias standing beside a smiling woman in graduation robes. On the back, written in blue ink, were the words, "Leave every room better than you found it." "Love, Ruth." Sloane glanced down at the photograph. "Maybe leave the sentimental junk at home," she said. Elias' composure changed, not dramatically but enough for Maya to notice. His shoulders became still. He picked up the photograph before the liquid could reach it and slipped it into his shirt pocket. "You need to stop recording," he said. Sloane moved closer. "Or what?" Before Elias could answer, the laboratory door opened. Dr. Adrian Vale, director of the Innovation Center, entered with 2 campus security officers behind him. He was a polished man in his late 40s who rarely raised his voice because he had spent years learning that powerful people did not need to. "What's happening here?" Vale asked. Sloane turned the camera toward him, instantly changing her tone. "Thank God. He came in here, started touching things, and became aggressive when I asked him to leave." Maya stared at her. "That isn't true." Sloane spoke over her. "He also knocked something off the counter. I don't know whether he contaminated my samples." Elias looked at Vale. "She spilled the vial. The stream will show that." Vale glanced at the phone, then at the viewer count. "End the broadcast, Ms. Mercer." But now, Sloane tapped the screen. The live stream ended after 11 minutes and 43 seconds. Vale faced Elias. Were you assigned to this floor tonight? Yes. Were you authorized to enter this laboratory while a supervised media session was underway? The door was propped open. I saw an unsecured cooler and an active spill. Vale's eyes moved toward the red cooler beneath the counter. Maya noticed the movement. So did Elias. One of the security officers, Jonah Reed, stepped toward the cart. Sir, I need your identification. Elias handed him a plastic employee badge bearing the name E. Grant. Vale took the badge from Reed before the officer could read it closely. You've been here less than 6 weeks, Vale said. 5 weeks and 4 days. And in that time you've submitted 4 safety complaints. I submitted 4 reports about matters outside your responsibilities. Chemical storage, blocked exits, mislabeled waste, and an unsecured research cooler are not outside the responsibilities of anyone working in this building. Sloane quietly restarted her phone's camera without live streaming. She held it low beside her hip. Vale's voice cooled. You are being placed on immediate administrative suspension pending an investigation. Elias looked at Maya. She seemed ready to speak, but Vale gave her a warning glance. Dr. Chen, he said, please secure the samples and prepare an incident report. Maya swallowed. Yes, Dr. Vale. Reed gestured toward the hallway. Sir, I'll need you to come with us. Elias placed the broken thermos back on his cart. He took the photograph from his pocket, checked that it was dry, and tucked it safely behind his identification card. As he passed Sloane, she raised her phone enough for him to see the recording icon. Smile, she murmured. This is the part people remember. Elias paused. No, he said. People remember what you do when you think someone cannot answer back. By midnight, Sloane's edited video had more than 3 million views. She removed the moment when she spilled the vial. She removed Maya's objections and Elias' warnings about the emergency circuit. The clip began with Elias standing over the pink liquid while Sloane's voice trembled behind the camera. I don't feel safe right now. It continued with Elias saying, you need to stop recording, followed by security escorting him from the laboratory. Sloane added a caption accusing him of entering a restricted room, contaminating research materials, and intimidating a female student. The video ended with her crying in the passenger seat of a black SUV. No woman should be threatened for simply asking an employee to do his job. The internet did the rest. People identified Elias from a blurry frame and found the temporary staffing agency that had processed his facility's paperwork. The agency received thousands of messages demanding his termination. Halston University's public relations office was flooded with calls. Students planned a morning protest against campus intimidation. Sloane's cosmetics sponsor posted that it stood with women in science. At 7 the next morning, Elias sat alone in a modest kitchen 12 miles from campus, watching the edited clip on an old laptop. He replayed it twice. Not because he doubted what had happened, but because he wanted to understand what had been removed. The spill was gone. The red cooler was never visible. Maya's voice had vanished. The video skipped 3 seconds immediately after his thermos hit the floor. Sloane had preserved every sentence that made him sound commanding and deleted every event that explained why he spoke that way. His phone rang. The name on the screen was Malcolm Price, chair of Halston University's Board of Trustees. Elias let it ring once before answering. Good morning, Malcolm. What happened? That depends which version you watched. I watched the public one. Legal is trying to obtain the original. They won't receive it voluntarily. Malcolm exhaled. The president wants to issue a statement supporting the student while the investigation is pending. She isn't just a student, she is a paid university ambassador filming commercial content in a laboratory. I know. Does the statement mention that? No, then it is not a statement, it is protection. There was a pause. Elias, the board needs to know whether you were working there as part of the facility's review. I was working the shift I was assigned. That isn't what I asked. Elias looked toward the photograph propped beside his coffee maker. Ruth was smiling from beneath her graduation cap, one hand raised as if she had been caught laughing. I had concerns about the Innovation Center, he said. I wanted to see conditions without an escort. You should have told the president. If I had told the president, every hallway would have been polished before I entered it. You are Halston's largest living donor. You cannot wander around disguised as a janitor. I was not disguised. I wore the uniform, passed the training, cleaned the floors, and reported to a supervisor. The work was real. You know what I mean? Yes, Elias said. That is the problem. He had donated $184 million to Halston over 15 years, most of it through the Ruth Grant Foundation. The Innovation Center, where Sloane filmed her video, existed because of a $60 million gift from that foundation. Elias had funded laboratories, scholarships, clinical research, emergency housing, and a childcare center for university employees. His name appeared on none of them. Ruth had insisted on that. A gift that needs your face on the wall, she used to say, is sometimes just a purchase wearing a tie. The public knew the Ruth Grant Foundation. Few knew the quiet man who had created it after selling a medical diagnostics company. Even fewer knew that the foundation's chairman occasionally visited campuses without a driver, sat with custodial employees during overnight breaks, and read maintenance logs more carefully than annual reports. Halston's administration knew, Sloane Mercer did not. "What do you want us to do?" Malcolm asked. "Follow the process that would exist if I had never written a check. And if the process is corrupted, then we learn more than we would have learned by rescuing me." At 9, Elias received an email ordering him to attend a disciplinary meeting at the staffing agency's downtown office. The agency's regional manager, Felicia Ward, sat across from him with a university attorney on one side and Derek Mills, Halston's facilities supervisor, on the other. Derek was a broad-shouldered former Marine who had trained Elias without asking why a 62-year-old man with careful hands and an unusually detailed knowledge of laboratory ventilation wanted an entry-level custodial position. Felicia pushed a severance agreement across the table. "The university is willing to resolve this quietly," she said. "You'll receive 8 weeks of pay. In return, you agree not to discuss the student, the laboratory, or the incident." Elias read the first page. "The document says I entered a secured room without authorization. That is the university's position." The door was open. "The access log shows your badge was used at 9:14 p.m. My badge does not open that laboratory." The attorney leaned forward. "Then how did you enter?" "Through the open door. The system records your credential." Elias looked at Derek. Derek stared at the agreement. "Would you like to explain that?" Elias asked him. Derek's jaw moved, but he said nothing. Felicia tapped the severance document. "This is a generous offer, Mr. Grant. It also says I accept responsibility for possible contamination of research samples. It settles all disputed facts. It invents facts." The attorney folded his hands. "You are a temporary employee with a history of bypassing the chain of command. 4 complaints in 5 weeks can appear less like diligence and more like disruptive behavior. What happened to those complaints?" "They were reviewed. By whom? That is not relevant to this meeting." Elias closed the agreement. "It is the only thing relevant to this meeting." Felicia's expression softened. "You are becoming the focus of a national controversy. People have posted your address. Your photograph is everywhere. Take the money and let the university protect you. By calling me guilty, by allowing the story to move on." Elias slid the agreement back across the table. "It will not move on. It will move to someone with less power to refuse." Derek finally looked at him. "Elias," he said quietly, "sign it." The urgency in his voice was not contempt, it was fear. Elias noticed a bruise near Derek's wrist and a folded paper protruding from his jacket pocket. The visible corner carried the blue logo of Vale Biologics, a private company co-founded by Dr. Adrian Vale. "Did they threaten your job?" Elias asked. Derek stiffened. Felicia stood. "This meeting is over." Outside the building, reporters waited beside the curb. Elias had not told anyone when the meeting would end, yet 6 cameras turned toward him as soon as he stepped through the glass doors. "Mr. Grant, did you threaten Sloane Mercer? Were you trespassing in the laboratory? Have you been fired?" A young reporter pushed closest. "Sloane says you have been obsessed with her for weeks. Is that true?" Elias stopped. "Did she say that on camera? She posted it 20 minutes ago. Then you should ask her for evidence. Are you denying it?" "I am saying evidence matters, especially when attention is profitable." He walked away without answering anything else. That afternoon, Sloane sat in her mother's penthouse office while a publicist watched engagement numbers rise across 3 monitors. Celeste Mercer was elegant, controlled, and furious whenever fear threatened to show on her face. She had built a career managing crises for pharmaceutical companies, politicians, and universities. For the past 4 years, she had also served on Halston's Commercial Partnerships Council, where she helped transform student research into corporate sponsorships. "You should not have restarted the camera," Celeste said. "That footage saved me. It created footage we do not control. I control my own files." "No, you control what you understand." Sloane threw her phone onto the sofa. "Everyone believes me. The sponsor added $200,000 to the campaign. Halston is defending me, for now. Why are you acting like I committed a crime? He's a janitor." Celeste looked at her daughter for a long moment. "His employment category is not the issue." "Then what is?" Dr. Vale stood near the window, reading something on his tablet. He had arrived without greeting Sloane. "The man filed reports about the cooler," he said. Sloane glanced at him. So no one outside the study team was supposed to know the cooler existed." It was under a table. It contained stability samples from the Lumina trial. Sloane's confidence weakened. Lumina was the anti-aging serum she had been promoting for 6 months. Her videos described it as a university-tested breakthrough. The launch had earned her money, followers, and invitations to speak about women in science, despite the fact that she had never completed more than 2 introductory chemistry courses. "You told me those were demonstration samples," she said. "They were. Then why does it matter?" Celeste stepped closer. "Because the cooler was not logged into the building." Sloane looked from her mother to Vale. "You said the session had been approved." "The filming was approved," Vale replied. "The cooler was not. What was inside it? Material that should not have been visible." Sloane remembered Elias looking directly beneath the workbench. She remembered how quickly Vale had glanced toward the same spot. "You knew he was asking questions before last night," she said. Vale's face remained calm. "We knew a facilities employee had become disruptive. You told me to keep the camera on him. I told you to document any inappropriate conduct. You said make sure people see what kind of man he is." Celeste cut in. "Lower your voice." Sloane stared at her mother. "Did you know he would be there?" Celeste did not answer quickly enough. Sloane stood. "You set that up." "No," Celeste said. "We anticipated a problem and prepared for it. There is a difference. There isn't a difference when I'm the one standing in front of the camera." "You wanted a confrontation," her mother reminded her. "You complained that the campaign was losing momentum. You said you needed something real." "I meant a prank, a rude professor, a jealous student, not this." "You received exactly what you asked for," Celeste said. "Now stop pretending you were forced." Sloane picked up her phone. "Where are the original files?" Her publicist turned away from the monitors. "They're already backed up to the brand server." Celeste's expression changed. "Delete them." The publicist hesitated. "The contract requires 90-day retention. Delete the local copies." "What about the server?" Vale finally looked up from his tablet. "We will deal with the server." At Halston, Maya spent the afternoon examining the samples Sloane had claimed Elias contaminated. The labels looked correct at first. Batch numbers, dates, storage temperatures, initials. But 3 vials carried a code Maya recognized from a failed irritation trial conducted 4 months earlier. That trial had been paused after 2 participants developed chemical burns. Dr. Vale had later told the research team that the batch had been destroyed. Maya opened the electronic inventory. The batch did not exist. She checked the freezer logs. No entry. She checked the waste records. No destruction certificate. When she searched the Lumina project folder, the screen displayed an access error. Her authorization had been removed. Dr. Vale entered the room. "You should go home," he said. "I'm completing the incident report. I'll handle it." She lied about the spill. Vale closed the door behind him. Ms. Mercer became frightened. Memory under stress is imperfect. She dropped the vial before Mr. Grant entered. "That is not relevant to the contamination question." The vial was already open. She wasn't wearing gloves. There was food on the counter. "I said I will handle the report." Maya looked at the red cooler, which now sat open and empty. "Where are the samples?" "They were transferred." "By whom?" His expression sharpened. "You are here on a research visa, correct?" Maya's throat tightened. "My immigration status has nothing to do with this. Your status is tied to continued academic employment. I would hate for a misunderstanding to affect your position." "You're threatening me." "I'm reminding you that allegations have consequences for everyone." Maya thought of the 5 years she had spent earning a place in that laboratory. She thought of her parents in Seattle, who had borrowed against their home to support her through college before she received funding. She thought of the recommendation letter Vale had promised to write for a federal fellowship. Then she thought of Elias kneeling to save the photograph Sloane had nearly soaked in chemicals. "What do you want the report to say?" she asked. Vale placed a prepared document on the counter. "That the facilities employee entered without authorization, handled unsealed materials, and behaved in a manner that caused a student to fear for her safety." Maya read the statement. "I didn't see him touch the samples. You saw him near them. That is not the same thing." "It is close enough for an internal report." Maya looked at him, not for a scientific one. Vale's patience disappeared. "You are not being asked to publish it." Maya signed nothing. That evening, Elias returned to Halston for the first time since his suspension, not through a laboratory entrance but through the limestone administration building. He wore a charcoal suit, a white shirt, and the silver cuff links Ruth had given him on the day they sold their company. The security officer at the desk began to ask for identification, then recognized him. "Mr. Grant." "Good evening, Leonard." The officer straightened. "The board is waiting upstairs." "Has Ms. Mercer arrived?" "She's with her mother and Dr. Vale." Elias nodded and entered the elevator. Inside the emergency board meeting, Sloane sat between Celeste and a university attorney. She had expected a disciplinary committee. several nervous administrators, and perhaps the janitor joining by video if anyone bothered to invite him. Instead, the university president, provost, general counsel, and 12 trustees were seated around a long walnut table. An empty chair stood at the head. Malcolm Price glanced at the clock. "We'll begin when Mr. Grant arrives." Sloane leaned toward the attorney. "Why are we waiting for him?" The doors opened. Elias walked in. The university president rose first, then Malcolm. One by one, every trustee around the table stood. Sloane remained seated, looking behind Elias for someone else. Malcolm approached him. "Elias, thank you for coming." Dr. Vale's face drained of color. Celeste closed her eyes for half a second. Sloane looked at her mother. "Why are they standing?" Celeste did not answer. Malcolm turned toward the room. "For the record, Mr. Elias Grant is chairman of the Ruth Grant Foundation, a trustee emeritus of Halston University, and the principal donor behind the Advanced Biomedical Innovation Center." Sloane's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Elias took the empty chair at the head of the table. The silence that followed felt heavier than anger. Sloane stared at the man she had ordered to kneel on a laboratory floor. The facility's uniform was gone, but nothing else about him had changed. He still sat with the same straight posture. He still watched people as if listening mattered more than speaking. "You're the donor?" she finally asked. Elias looked at her. "I am one of them." Malcolm corrected him gently. "The foundation has contributed more to Halston than any private donor in the university's history." Sloane turned toward Celeste. "You knew." Celeste kept her voice low. "I learned this morning." Dr. Vale said nothing. The university president cleared his throat. "Mr. Grant, on behalf of Halston, I want to express our profound regret for—" Elias raised one hand. "Do not apologize before the facts are established." The president stopped. Elias placed a folder on the table. "I requested this meeting for 3 reasons. First, an employee was suspended based on an edited social media video. Second, a student ambassador used a restricted laboratory for commercial content under circumstances that remain unclear. Third, safety reports submitted from the Innovation Center appear to have been altered or closed without investigation." Vale leaned forward. "With respect, the employee and the donor are the same person." "That creates a serious conflict." "It does," Elias agreed, "which is why I will not vote on any disciplinary recommendation involving Ms. Mercer, Dr. Chen, Dr. Vale, or myself." Sloane blinked. "You're not deciding what happens to me?" "No. Then why am I here?" "Because the process should include the person whose conduct is being examined." Celeste placed one hand on Sloane's arm. "We are prepared to cooperate fully. My daughter was frightened and reacted imperfectly, but she believed she was in danger." Elias looked at Sloane. "Did you believe that?" Sloane saw every person at the table waiting. She remembered her mother's rule: never answer a question until you know which answer protects the future. "Yes," she said. "When? What do you mean? At what point did you become afraid?" "When you came toward me. I moved toward the spill kit." "I didn't know that. You had filmed in that room 11 times. The spill kit is mounted beneath a red sign." Sloane's attorney intervened. "This is becoming cross-examination." Elias leaned back, then let the independent investigator ask the questions. Vale folded his arms. "There is no need to turn a misunderstanding into a public spectacle. It became a public spectacle when Ms. Mercer uploaded my face to 8 million followers. She removed your name. Her viewers found it in 40 minutes. Celeste spoke with practiced calm. "We cannot control online behavior. You controlled the edit. We have not established that Sloane personally edited the video." Sloane looked at her mother, realizing she had just been separated from the decision that had made her famous. Elias opened his folder. "My facilities badge was recorded entering a laboratory it cannot unlock. The 4 safety reports I submitted were closed by an administrator whose credentials do not appear in the compliance directory. A research cooler was removed before it could be inventoried. Those matters require more than an apology." Vale's voice became sharper. "Are you accusing my laboratory of fraud? I am asking why you heard the word cooler and assumed the accusation involved you." No one moved. Malcolm looked toward the general counsel. "Preserve all records related to the laboratory. Mercer's media sessions, the Lumina project, and Mr. Grant's safety reports, effective immediately." The counsel nodded. Celeste rose. "We will not consent to a process controlled by a man who secretly placed himself in proximity to my daughter." Elias remained seated. "I did not know your daughter would be in the building. She had a published schedule. I do not follow her." Sloane felt the humiliation reverse direction. Her name, which had carried authority everywhere she entered, now sounded childish in the room. Celeste gathered her papers. "This university benefited from her platform. You invited her into that laboratory. You promoted her work. Now that an influential donor is embarrassed, you intend to sacrifice her." Elias' voice stayed quiet. Your daughter is not being examined because I am influential. She is being examined because she used influence against someone she believed was not. The meeting ended with an independent investigation, a temporary freeze on Lumina research, and an order requiring all parties to preserve communications and recordings. By morning, Celeste had changed the story. She gave an interview claiming Elias had concealed his identity to conduct an unauthorized social experiment on students and employees. She suggested he had targeted Sloane because of her criticism of wealthy donors controlling education. The phrase billionaire janitor trap began trending. Sloane posted a new video from a softly lit room, wearing no makeup and speaking in a subdued voice. I now know that the man in the video was not who he presented himself to be. I feel manipulated, watched, and honestly violated. No powerful man should be allowed to test a young woman without her consent. The strategy worked. Commentators who had condemned Elias' supposed aggression now accused him of deception. Some called his custodial work performance art. Others claimed he had humiliated low-income workers by treating their jobs like costumes. Elias refused every television interview. The silence cost him. Halston students organized competing demonstrations. One group demanded Sloane's expulsion. Another demanded Elias' removal from the board. Facilities employees found reporters waiting outside their homes. Derek stopped answering his phone. 3 days after the meeting, the Ruth Grant Foundation's investment committee held an emergency call. 2 members warned Elias that the scandal could damage partnerships with hospitals and research institutions. You should release your full biography, one advisor said. Show the scholarships, the employee housing, the clinics. Remind people who you are. That would make generosity a defense against misconduct, Elias replied. It would correct the image. Which image? The one where a janitor is assumed dangerous, or the one where a donor is assumed respectable? You are allowing people to believe a lie. I am allowing the evidence to determine which statements are lies. After the call, Elias drove to a small cemetery north of the city. Ruth's grave stood beneath an oak tree, marked by a simple stone carrying her name and 2 dates. No mention of the foundation. No mention of the company they had built. Beneath her name were 6 words she had chosen herself. Leave every room better than you found it. Elias sat on the bench beside the grave and removed the photograph from his wallet. The chemical stain had reached one corner, turning the paper faintly pink. Ruth had been 24 when they met. She cleaned laboratory floors at Halston from 6 at night until 2 in the morning and attended classes during the day. Elias had been an engineering student with more ambition than money and a habit of staying in the laboratory after closing. The first time she spoke to him, she had pointed at a pile of discarded wires and coffee cups near his workstation. You're designing machines to save time, she said, but you waste mine every night. He had apologized, cleaned the table, and returned the next evening with coffee for both of them. Ruth later became a clinical laboratory scientist. Together, they founded a diagnostics company after their 14-year-old daughter, Lena, died from an infection that went undetected for 6 crucial days. The hospital had relied on a slow test and a poorly maintained laboratory system. Elias designed a faster platform. Ruth built the quality program and insisted that every technician, transporter, cleaner, and receptionist be treated as part of patient safety. People who are ignored see what important people miss, she often said. After Lena's death, Ruth made Elias promise that grief would not turn him cruel. After Ruth died 18 years later, he turned their company shares into the foundation that carried her name. The Innovation Center had been her final idea. Elias had walked its floors at night because compliance reports showed rising chemical waste without matching research output. Equipment maintenance had been deferred while commercial revenue increased. Custodial staff reported headaches on one corridor, but the complaints vanished before reaching the safety committee. He had not gone there to test Sloane. He had gone there because Ruth taught him where institutions hid their truth. His phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number appeared. I was in the laboratory. I saw everything. I cannot speak openly. Check the service corridor locker marked C19. Elias read it twice. The sender added another message, do not trust the access records. The locker stood in a facilities corridor beneath the Innovation Center. Because Elias was suspended, he could not legally enter the building without authorization. He forwarded the message to the independent investigator, former federal prosecutor Naomi Bell. Naomi replied within minutes, do not go there. I will arrange access and witnesses. When investigators opened locker C19, they found no documents, no chemical samples, and no recording. They found Derek Mills's university keys. Derek had disappeared. His wife told police he had left home after receiving a call from Halston's legal office. He had taken no luggage, his bank card had not been used, his truck remained in a grocery store parking lot 3 miles from campus. The university's general counsel denied contacting him. Sloane seized on the disappearance. In another video, she suggested Elias' secret investigation had frightened a hardworking supervisor into running away. She did not directly accuse Elias of harming Derek, but she placed his photograph beside the words "power has consequences." That night, someone spray-painted "liar" across the gate of Elias' house. The next morning, the Foundation's board temporarily removed him from active oversight of Halston grants until the controversy was resolved. It was the first time in 15 years that Elias entered the Ruth Grant Foundation's offices and discovered his security credential had been suspended. His assistant met him in the lobby with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said, "you didn't make the decision. I voted against it. That does not make the others disloyal. They think you've become a liability. They are allowed to think." He handed her a folder containing his ongoing projects. "Make sure the employee childcare grant is not delayed. Elias, this could get worse. It already has for Derek." Naomi Bell found him that evening in a diner near the cemetery. She placed a tablet on the table. The access log showing your badge entering the laboratory was generated 13 minutes after security removed you from the building. Elias studied the timestamp. "Can you prove it was altered?" "Not yet. The system administrator account was used remotely." The login originated from a university-issued laptop assigned to Dr. Vale's office, but he claims the device was shared. "What about Derek? Police located him in a motel outside Richmond. Is he safe?" "Physically, he refuses to return." "Why?" Naomi slid a handwritten statement across the table. Derek had discovered that Vale Biologics was paying a subcontractor to dispose of chemical waste from Halston's laboratory. The waste volumes did not match reported experiments. When Derek raised concerns, Dr. Vale threatened to terminate the university's facilities contract, costing more than 60 custodial workers their jobs. Derek closed Elias' first 2 safety complaints. After the third, he tried to warn him indirectly. The folded paper Elias had noticed during the severance meeting was a termination notice prepared for the entire night shift team. He told investigators you pressured him to sign the severance agreement because he believed they would fire everyone if you refused, Naomi said. Why did he leave? Someone sent him photographs of his daughter entering school. Elias' hand tightened around the statement. "Who? He received them through an encrypted account. We have no attribution." "Vale? Possibly. Celeste Mercer also employs a private crisis firm known for aggressive opposition research." "Can Derek testify?" "Not yet." Elias looked out the diner window, then protect his family before asking again. Naomi studied him. "There's something else." Maya Chen submitted an incident report. "What did she say?" "She stated that she could not determine who caused the spill and that your presence may have compromised laboratory materials." "That does not sound like what she witnessed." "No. Has she spoken to you?" "She will not respond." Elias remembered Maya's face when Vale mentioned her visa. He remembered the silence that looked more like calculation than agreement. "She may be protecting more than herself," he said. Maya was protecting her younger brother. 2 years earlier, her brother Daniel had survived a rare autoimmune reaction. The experimental treatment that stabilized him had been developed through a research consortium led by Dr. Vale. Vale had reminded Maya of that debt whenever she questioned laboratory decisions. After the confrontation, he placed a photograph of Daniel's hospital room on her desk. No note, no threat. He did not need one. Maya signed the incident report, but she changed one sentence before submitting it. Vale's draft said Elias had contaminated the research cooler. Maya wrote that his presence may have affected materials located outside approved inventory controls. It looked like an accusation. It was also a warning. Naomi noticed the wording. "Outside approved inventory controls," she repeated during a second interview. "Were there unregistered materials in the room?" Maya stared at the recording device between them. "I have nothing else to add." "Did Dr. Vale instruct you to sign the report?" "No." "Did anyone mention your immigration status or your family?" Maya stood. "This interview is over." As she reached the door, Naomi spoke again. "Dr. Chen, an innocent employee, is being publicly blamed. A facilities supervisor was threatened. If there is research fraud, patients may eventually be harmed." Maya stopped but did not turn around. "My brother would be dead without Dr. Vale's work," she said. "Gratitude does not require blindness." "You don't understand." "I understand that good people can do terrible things and terrible people can once have done good." Maya's shoulders trembled. Then she left. The investigation appeared to stall. Vale produced documents showing that the red cooler contained harmless demonstration products. Celeste's lawyers claimed all original video files had been deleted automatically because of storage limits. Halston's access system vendor said logs older than 7 days had been overwritten during an emergency software update. Sloane gained another million followers. Her sponsor released a limited edition product called Unfiltered, promoted with the slogan, "Never let powerful men rewrite your truth." Elias' legal team advised him to sue for defamation. He resisted until Sloane appeared on a national talk show and accused him of stalking her before the laboratory incident. She claimed he had watched 3 earlier filming sessions from the hallway. Elias had been present during one of them because he was cleaning the corridor. The other 2 occurred before he began working at Halston. Naomi placed travel records on his desk proving he had been in Denver and Atlanta on those dates. She has crossed from opinion into demonstrably false fact, Naomi said. A lawsuit gives us discovery rights. It will look like a wealthy man trying to crush a student. She is represented by a crisis firm, 2 law firms, and a corporation worth $4 billion. She is not legally defenseless. She is still 23, and she is still responsible for what she says. Elias looked at Ruth's photograph. What would the lawsuit require? Preservation of all recordings, drafts, messages, sponsorship communications, and server backups related to her claims. He looked up. Server backups, if they exist. The defamation complaint was filed the following morning. Celeste called it intimidation. Sloane posted a video of herself opening the legal papers and crying. What neither of them knew was that the Lumina sponsorship contract required the brand's media platform to preserve raw content whenever a legal dispute concerned a campaign. The deletion request Celeste sent 3 days earlier had triggered an automatic compliance hold. Every original file remained intact. Sloane's attorneys discovered the hold during a private conference and immediately moved to dismiss her public statements as protected opinion. When that failed, they offered a confidential settlement. Elias refused. Then the university received an anonymous package containing a vial labeled with the missing Lumina batch number. Testing showed concentrations of an unapproved solvent at nearly 6 times the level recorded in Vail's official data. The package contained no fingerprints and no return address. Vail accused Elias of planting the sample. Sloane repeated the accusation online. For 48 hours, the case turned against him again. A former employee of Elias Diagnostics Company appeared on a podcast and claimed Elias had once manipulated test results to protect investors. The allegation was 20 years old, vague and unsupported, but clips spread faster than corrections. Halston's board voted to remove Elias from the investigation entirely. The university president announced that Dr. Vail would resume limited operations while outside experts reviewed the disputed sample. On the same day, Maya withdrew from her doctoral program. She emptied her apartment, disconnected her phone, and left no forwarding address. Elias sat in the darkened foundation office after everyone had gone home. His temporary removal had been lifted, but the building felt unfamiliar. Letters from angry alumni covered one desk. A hospital partner had paused negotiations for a new diagnostic clinic. 3 scholarship recipients had received online threats because their awards carried Ruth's name. He had believed evidence would protect people. Instead, people were being hurt while evidence waited for permission to matter. For the first time, he considered ending the lawsuit, resigning from the board, and allowing Halston to announce that everyone had made regrettable mistakes. His assistant placed a package beside him. This came by courier. Inside was the broken cap from his green thermos. A folded note read, "She saved the part they wanted erased." Beneath the note was a memory card. The card contained no video. It held a 27-second audio file recorded in the laboratory shortly before Sloane began livestreaming. Dr. Vail's voice was clear. "The facilities man has been asking about the waste logs. If he comes in, keep the camera on him." Sloane replied, "What am I supposed to do? Make him the problem." Celeste's voice followed through the speaker of Sloane's phone. "Once he reacts, we can remove him before the audit." The recording ended. Elias listened twice. The file proved the confrontation had been anticipated. It did not prove who had made the recording, why it was stored on the card, or whether it had been altered. Naomi examined the metadata. "It came from a wireless microphone assigned to Maya Chen," she said. "Where is she? We don't know. Then this cannot be used until she verifies it. It can guide us. It can also destroy her if someone stole it." Naomi stared at the broken thermos cap. "Why send this?" Elias turned it over. A thin strip of dried pink residue ran along the inner edge. "The thermos was tested after the spill," he said. "For what?" "The coffee mixed with the solution." Naomi understood. If the pink liquid contained material from the missing batch, then the contamination existed before I entered the room. Independent testing confirmed that the residue on the cap contained the same unapproved solvent found in the anonymous vial. The thermos had been in police property storage since the night of the incident because campus security had bagged everything from Elias' cart. Its chain of custody was documented. No one could credibly claim Elias introduced the chemical later. The spill Sloane erased from her public video had exposed the fraud she was trying to conceal. But the strongest evidence was still missing. The raw footage on the brand server remained sealed while lawyers argued over access. Vale claimed the solvent was part of an unrelated cleaning compound. Celeste claimed the audio file was fabricated. Sloane insisted she had never seen the red cooler before that night. Then Derek returned. He entered Naomi Bell's office with his wife beside him and a lawyer provided by the Custodial Workers Union. His face looked thinner. His hands shook when he placed a binder on the table. "I closed the reports," he told Elias. "I knew something was wrong and I closed them." "You were threatened," Elias said. "I still did it." "What is in the binder?" "Copies of every waste manifest from the Innovation Center for 18 months. I kept them because the digital totals kept changing." The records showed that chemical waste associated with failed Lumina trials had been removed from the laboratory but reported as waste from unrelated student experiments. Vale Biologics billed the university for safe disposal, then billed the corporate sponsor for the same service. More importantly, several destroyed batches reappeared later under new identification numbers with improved safety results. "You tried to warn me," Elias said. Derek nodded. "I put the message in your locker." "But they searched it first. When I realized they had my keys, I panicked. Who sent the photographs of your daughter?" Derek looked at Celeste's name printed on one of the documents. "The crisis firm." "A man called me afterward and said no one needed to get hurt if I remembered which team paid my salary." Naomi closed the binder. "Will you testify?" Derek looked at Elias. "I watched them call you dangerous because they thought your uniform made you disposable. Then I told you to sign a lie because I was afraid. I can't ask my crew to trust me if I stay quiet now." The final board hearing was scheduled for a Friday afternoon in Halston's largest ceremonial chamber. The university planned to keep it private, but Celeste threatened to accuse the board of conducting a secret donor-controlled tribunal. Elias responded by requesting that faculty representatives, student journalists, employee union observers, and independent media be admitted. Sloane arrived through the front entrance beneath a wall of camera flashes. She wore a cream-colored suit chosen by her publicist and carried a folder she had never opened. Her mother walked beside her. Dr. Vale entered separately with 3 attorneys. Maya's chair remained empty. Elias arrived alone, carrying the repaired green thermos. The hearing began with Derek's testimony. He described the altered waste records, the threats to his employees, and the photographs of his daughter. Vale's attorneys attacked his credibility, noting that he had closed safety complaints and fled during an investigation. "I did both," Derek admitted. "Cowardice doesn't make the records false." Dr. Vale testified next. He denied ordering anyone to provoke Elias. He described the Lumina irregularities as administrative errors caused by overwhelmed staff. He suggested Maya had become unstable after her fellowship application was rejected. When asked about the audio recording, he called it an obvious fabrication. Celeste testified that she had advised Sloane to document interactions because Elias had been behaving suspiciously around filming locations. She denied knowing he was a donor until after the confrontation. Then, Naomi displayed an email Celeste had sent 6 months earlier to Halston's president. The subject line read, "Grant Foundation Commercialization Concerns." Celeste stared at the screen. "You knew Elias Grant's name," Naomi said. "I knew the foundation. The email discusses Mr. Grant personally. I did not know what he looked like." Naomi displayed a photograph attached to the email. Elias stood beside the president at a private research dinner. Celeste's lawyer objected. The board overruled him. "You recognized him in the laboratory footage," Naomi said. Celeste's face remained controlled. "I may have recognized him afterward. Before or after you instructed your daughter to make him the problem." The room went silent. Celeste looked toward Dr. Vale. Vale looked down at his notes. Naomi played the 27-second audio file. Sloane closed her eyes. Her own voice filled the chamber. "What am I supposed to do? Make him the problem. Once he reacts, we can remove him before the audit." Celeste leaned toward her microphone. "That recording has not been authenticated." "No," Naomi said, "not yet." The board chair looked toward the empty witness chair. "Without Dr. Chen, authentication may be difficult." The rear doors opened. Maya entered carrying a black laboratory notebook. She wore no lab coat, no university badge, and no expression of apology. A lawyer from a scientific whistleblower organization walked beside her. Dr. Vale stood. "You cannot admit surprise testimony without notice." Maya looked at him. You removed my email, my building access, my research funding, and my immigration sponsorship within 6 hours of my refusing to falsify the report. I wasn't certain which address would reach you. The faculty observers murmured. Maya took the witness chair. She authenticated the audio and explained that she had activated her wireless microphone before Sloane's session to record narration for a laboratory safety video. When Vale ordered her to delete the footage, she removed the memory card and hid it inside the broken thermos cap while security cataloged the spill area. I knew Mr. Grant's belongings would enter evidence, she said. It was the only item Dr. Vale could not retrieve without creating a record. Elias looked at the thermos in front of him. Maya had risked her career to hide evidence inside an object Sloane had kicked across the floor. Why did you leave? Naomi asked. Because Dr. Vale canceled my sponsorship. I had 10 days to secure another academic position or prepare to leave the country. He also threatened to release confidential information about my brother's treatment. Vale's attorney stood again. Dr. Chen is retaliating because her fellowship was denied. Maya opened the black notebook. This contains the original Lumina sample map. Every batch, every irritation result, every disposal date. I kept a paper record because electronic files were changing. Naomi projected several pages. The failed batch number matched the residue from Elias' thermos. Handwritten notes recorded severe reactions among trial participants. Beside 3 entries Maya had written, Vale orders retest under new code, Sloane's attorney whispered to her. Sloane did not respond. Naomi continued. Did Ms. Mercer know the product failed testing? Maya looked at Sloane. She knew there had been reactions. That's not true, Sloane said. The board chair warned her to remain silent. Maya's voice became softer. I showed you photographs of the burns. You said they were from an early formula. They were from the formula you promoted the next morning. Sloane shook her head. My mother told me the problem had been corrected. Celeste turned sharply. Do not speak. Something changed in Sloane's face. For years, her mother had taught her that the camera was protection. Smile before anyone sees fear. Cry before anyone asks whether you caused the pain. Give the audience a villain before they choose one for themselves. Now there was no camera she controlled. Naomi addressed the board. The court authorized access to raw media files preserved under Ms. Mercer's sponsorship agreement. We received those files this morning. Celeste's attorney stood so quickly his chair struck the wall. We have not reviewed that production. You received notice at 9, Naomi replied. We object to playback. This is not a court, the board chair said. The objection is noted. The chamber lights dimmed. The screen showed Sloane in the laboratory 23 minutes before the livestream began. Her phone camera had been recording while lying beside her equipment bag. Vale entered the frame carrying the red cooler. He placed it beneath the table. Sloane's voice came from off-screen. Are those the samples with the reaction problem? Vale answered, they are the samples that need to disappear from inventory. Sloane laughed nervously. That sounds illegal. It sounds administrative. Your job is to film. A few minutes later, Celeste appeared on a video call. The audit starts Monday, she said. Vale needs the facility's complaints neutralized before then. Sloane asked, what if the janitor doesn't come in? He will. The door is open and the cooler is where he can see it. Then came the words that emptied the air from the room. Sloane said, so I spill something, he walks over and I make it look like he touched the samples. Celeste replied, you create confusion. We handle the facts afterward. The screen went black. No one looked at Elias. Everyone looked at Sloane. Her publicist quietly left the chamber. Dr. Vale began whispering to his attorneys. Celeste stared straight ahead, her face rigid with the effort of refusing shame. Sloane reached for the microphone. My mother said no one would be hurt. Celeste grabbed her wrist. Stop talking. Sloane pulled away. You said he would lose a temporary job and receive a settlement. This is not the time. You told me the product was safe. Sloane, you told me Maya was jealous. You told me Derek was stealing. You told me she pointed toward Elias, was some obsessive employee trying to get into my videos. Celeste's control broke, and you believed every word because believing me paid you. The sentence struck harder than a shout. Sloane stared at her. Celeste continued, unable to stop. You wanted the contract, you wanted the laboratory, you wanted people to call you a scientist without doing the work. Do not sit there and pretend ambition happened to you. Sloane's eyes filled, but for once she did not turn toward a camera. You're right, she said. Her attorney leaned close. Do not say anything else. She pushed the folder away. I knew the confrontation was staged. I knew the spill was supposed to make him look careless. I didn't know who he was, and I thought that meant there wouldn't be consequences. Elias watched her steadily. Sloane looked at him. When I found out you were the donor, I was sorry because I was afraid of what you could do to me. I wasn't sorry for what I did to you. The chamber remained silent. I kept making videos because my mother said the first person to admit doubt loses. I lied about seeing you at earlier filming sessions. I lied when I said you came toward me. I deleted the part where I spilled the vial. Her lawyer switched off her microphone. Sloane switched it back on. I also saw the photographs of the trial reactions. Maya showed me. I let them tell me the formula had changed because I wanted the launch to happen. Vale stood. This witness is clearly confused and attempting to transfer responsibility. Sloane turned toward him. You sent me a script for the crying video. Vale's expression hardened. You should listen to your attorney. No. That advice seems to work only for people who already know the truth. The board recessed for 20 minutes. Campus police waited outside the chamber while federal investigators reviewed evidence of research fraud, witness intimidation, commercial misrepresentation, and threats against Derek's family. Dr. Vale attempted to leave through a side corridor and was stopped for questioning. Celeste remained seated, speaking quietly with her attorneys. The crisis firm terminated its representation before the recess ended. Sloane sat alone. Elias walked toward the back of the chamber to refill his thermos. As he passed her table, she spoke without looking up. You knew who I was from the beginning, didn't you? I knew your name was on the filming schedule. Why didn't you tell me who you were? Would it have changed how you treated me? She looked at him. Yes, that is why. Her face tightened. Are you going to destroy me? Elias placed the thermos beneath the water dispenser. You have confused consequences with destruction. I'll lose everything. You may lose things you obtained through dishonesty. My degree. My career, my followers. Your degree is not complete, your career has not been decided, and followers are not property. She wiped her eyes. You make it sound simple. It is not simple. Then what do you want from me? The truth when it no longer benefits you. She looked toward her mother. I already told it. You told the truth after the recording played. Sloane lowered her head. What happens now? That is for the board, investigators, sponsors, students, and people harmed by the product to decide. You really won't decide my punishment. No. Why? Because justice controlled by an injured person can become another kind of performance. The board reconvened. Dr. Vale was placed on immediate unpaid suspension and barred from university property pending criminal and federal research investigations. His laboratory privileges were revoked. Halston referred the Lumina trial to regulators and began contacting participants whose adverse reactions had been concealed. Celeste was removed from the Commercial Partnerships Council. The university terminated every contract involving her crisis firm and referred evidence of intimidation and record manipulation to prosecutors. Derek was reinstated with back pay and offered protection under the university's whistleblower policy. He accepted reinstatement only after the board agreed to protect the night shift staff from retaliation and convert temporary custodial positions into direct university employment. Maya was offered restoration to the doctoral program under a new supervisor, full immigration support, and an independent review of her research. She accepted after adding one condition. The laboratory safety and ethics committees must include technicians, custodians, graduate researchers, and trial participants rather than only senior faculty. Sloane's university ambassador contract was terminated. Her academic credits tied to the Lumina project were invalidated. She received a 2-year suspension for harassment, unauthorized commercial activity, evidence manipulation, and academic dishonesty. The conduct panel stopped short of permanent expulsion because she had confessed, surrendered additional messages, and agreed to cooperate with investigators. She would be eligible to apply for readmission only after completing an ethics program and documented service outside her own media platforms. Her sponsor ended the contract before the hearing concluded. Every Lumina video was removed. The unfiltered campaign vanished overnight. Halston's president offered Elias a public apology. Elias accepted only after the president read a second apology addressed to every facilities employee whose safety report had been ignored. The defamation case against Sloane ended in a settlement requiring her to publish the complete unedited laboratory footage, retract the stalking accusation, and direct the remaining campaign earnings into a fund for participants harmed during the Lumina trials. She recorded the statement in a plain room without music, beauty filters, or a sponsored link. The video began with her sitting silently for several seconds. My name is Sloane Mercer, she said. I used an employee's job, age, and perceived lack of power to make him appear dangerous. I edited evidence, repeated statements I knew were false, and accepted attention created by humiliation. I did not become dishonest because people watch me. I became visible while being dishonest. The apology received fewer views than the original accusation. Elias had expected that. Truth rarely arrived with the same marketing budget as a lie. Federal authorities later charged Dr. Vale with research fraud, wire fraud, obstruction, and witness intimidation. Celeste faced charges related to evidence destruction and threats made through the crisis firm. Both pleaded not guilty and their cases moved slowly through court. Elias refused to call the charges victory. The trial participants still carried scars. Maya had lost a year of work. Derek's daughter changed schools. Facilities employees had learned how quickly the institution would sacrifice them to protect a profitable partnership. Justice could identify responsibility. It could not return untouched lives. 6 months later, the Innovation Center reopened under independent oversight. The university removed the glossy Lumina displays from the lobby. In their place stood a simple wall listing every role involved in laboratory safety. Researchers, participants, nurses, technicians, transporters, electricians, custodians, administrators, and students. No role appeared larger than another. Elias established the Ruth and Lena Grant Laboratory Integrity Fund, providing legal support for whistleblowers and scholarships for children of university service employees. He refused a ceremony until Derek convinced him the night crew deserved to see the board applaud them for once. Maya returned to complete her doctorate. Her first published paper examined how environmental and facilities reports could reveal research misconduct before formal audits detected it. Derek became co-chair of the Campus Safety Council. At the first meeting, he placed copies of every previously closed complaint on the table. "We start with the ones we were told not to read," he said. Sloane disappeared from social media for nearly a year. She sold her penthouse lease, paid legal costs, and moved into a small apartment near a community college where she enrolled in basic chemistry courses under her full legal name. Most students recognized her. Some mocked her. Others filmed her without permission. She never asked instructors to remove them. As part of her eligibility for readmission, she worked with a nonprofit that taught digital literacy to high school students. She was not allowed to film the sessions or use them as proof of rehabilitation. The first weeks were unbearable. Without an audience, good behavior felt invisible. That was the point. One afternoon, she returned to Halston for a restorative conference requested by the conduct panel. She entered the Innovation Center through the same laboratory corridor where the confrontation had occurred. Elias was standing beside a facilities cart speaking with 2 new custodial employees about chemical response procedures. He wore a dark suit, but his sleeves were rolled up. The repaired green thermos rested on the cart. Sloane stopped several feet away. "I wasn't expecting to see you." "I attend the safety training now." She looked at the floor. "The stain is gone. It was cleaned properly." She noticed the old photograph tucked beneath the thermos strap. "Was that your wife?" "Yes, the woman in the picture. Her name was Ruth." "I'm sorry about what I said." Elias studied her for a moment. "So am I," she accepted the answer. "I used to think an apology was supposed to make the other person forgive you. An apology is supposed to tell the truth about what you did. Does it ever become enough? That is not always for the person apologizing to know." One of the custodians called Elias from inside the laboratory. Before he turned away, Sloane reached into her bag and removed a new thermos cap. "I found the same model online," she said. "I know Maya already repaired yours, but I bought this before I knew." He looked at the cap in her hand. "You can keep it." Her embarrassment showed. "Right." Elias pointed toward a donation box beside the employee break room. "They collect reusable bottles and parts for the community workshop." Sloane placed the cap in the box. It was a small act that no one photographed. A year later, Halston approved her application to return under strict academic probation. She chose not to return to the Innovation Center. Instead, she studied communications ethics and completed an unpaid internship helping victims of online harassment request corrections from platforms. Her audience never returned to its former size. Neither did her certainty that being noticed meant being right. Elias eventually stopped working regular custodial shifts, though he still visited overnight crews without announcing himself. The board had asked him to place his name on the Innovation Center after the scandal. He declined. Instead, a small inscription appeared near the laboratory entrance. It carried no donor's name and no list of dollar amounts. The words had been copied from the back of Ruth's stained photograph. "Leave every room better than you found it." Beneath the inscription, the university added one final line after a unanimous vote by researchers, students, and service employees. "You can measure the character of an institution by how it treats the people it believes have no power." Every morning, professors, executives, students, and custodians passed those words on their way into the building. Some barely noticed them. Others stopped. Elias never asked which people had learned the lesson because of his money, his title, or the consequences that followed the hearing. He cared about the moment before those things were known, the moment when a person stood in an ordinary uniform, holding a mop beside a spill, and someone had to decide whether his dignity required proof. That decision, Ruth had taught him, was where the truth of a person always began.